When it was originally announced about a year ago, Morphies Law looked like a promising and a unique indie shooter. I was fascinated by the odd quirky nature of the game and I was very excited to get the chance to play it today. Morphies Law is available now on Nintendo Switch for $20. There's no story with this online shooter, so we're just jumping right into the gameplay. Morphies Law is both an online and an offline competitive shooter. While at first glance it may look like just a third-person Hispanic-themed shooter, it's actually pretty unique feeling. Its standout feature is the ever-changing mass of characters in the game. Your character can get smaller or larger in mass depending on if you're getting shots in or getting shot. The game itself is pretty straightforward, consisting of 3 game modes: Play, Profile, and Shop. Play gets you right into the game. You can play locally with friends on multiple switches, offline against bots, online with other players and bots, and lastly online with just friends or randoms. Diving into a match, you can play up to 3 different types of matches on 4 different maps. Mass Heights has you shooting your opponent's giant avatar to steal its mass away and back to your own avatar. It's almost like a game of capture the flag, only way more chaotic. Headhunt also feels like capture the flag, only now instead of collecting mass, you're capturing your avatar's head and bringing it back to it. It's a bit more strategic in my opinion, as the mass of the head can fluctuate and that affects the speed of your movement. The last game mode is my personal favorite, and that's Morph Match. It sort of plays like a team deathmatch mode, but rather than playing for kills, you're playing for avatar mass. As you shoot the enemy team, you'll gain mass for your giant home avatar. The team with the most mass, and thus the bigger avatar, wins. It's a ton of hectic fun to coordinate with your team and shoot down enemies in a group, getting the most mass in the shortest amount of time. The way the maps are designed, they're constantly changing and interacting with the player. For example, in the Morphe Saloon map, buildings will rise and drop. It kept me on my toes when looking for enemies. A lowering building could easily leave me blindsided against an enemy that was keeping watch from the top of a tower. The Maztec Temple map is constantly rotating at the center of the map and it can be quite easy to get snuck up on. I love the idea of interchanging maps. It keeps the adrenaline of the match going, and it has been some of my favorite parts of the Battlefield series. Now, if only this game felt as polished as some other shooters, because to be blunt with you guys, Morphies Law feels very much like a early access game. Ammo is unlimited and it feels like you're shooting a pellet gun a lot of the time. There isn't any satisfying feedback when landing a hit. There aren't any dedicated servers, and early on matches on launch day led to some hostess connection issues pretty often. When I did finally get into a match, gameplay was fun when it wasn't constantly glitching out. In my time playing the game, I managed to go through walls, fall through the floor, and get stuck in between spaces multiple times. The stability of the online was subpar, so much so that I thought it was just how unpolished the game was. Once I started playing against offline bots, I noticed just how much smoother the gameplay was offline than online. Online character animations look like lazy claymations where in-between frames are just missing. It's straight up bad looking. Even with the ability to use motion controls for aiming, the bad frame pacing made gameplay a bit challenging. A lot of that was fixed just playing offline, and it goes to show just how unstable the online currently is. There is some good here though. The idea of the gameplay mechanics are fun and amusing to play, it's just very unpolished. The progression system on the other hand feels perfect. As you play matches, you'll gain both XP and gears. XP levels up your character, unlocking new types of weapons and abilities in the game. You can create new weapons with the parts you unlock and use an assortment of different abilities like a shield or grappling arm in mid-match. The gears you collect from matches can be spent on pinata loot boxes that unlock new cosmetics, or just buy the cosmetics individually. All of these purchasable items are used to customize the look and emotes of your character. It's a lot of fun. You get enough freedom to make the avatar your own, and best of all, you don't need to actually buy these cosmetics with real money. It's all in-game currency. I think the ideas with the progression system are great. They're handled really well, and being rewarded with just not cosmetics but better tools for matches makes me want to keep playing the game online. It'd be the perfect setup if the gameplay was actually stable online. For the time being, offline and local matches with multiple switches really seem to be the only way to get a decent enough match right now. Online has so much issues right now with the pacing, and it becomes the most noticeable when you compare it to the hover jump between the online and offline mode in a match. Morphies Law has this sort of scrapped together charm to it. It's not beautiful, but it looks like it was made in a college game jam, and I think that makes it look somewhat appealing. However, this is still very much a game that's rough around the edges. The animation looks a bit incomplete at times, almost like the models aren't even done yet. Like I said, I just wouldn't blame you if you thought this was an early access game. In dock mode, the game looks to run at 720p with a frame rate that fluctuates between 45 to 60 frames per second. In handheld mode, it continues to run at that same frame rate, though the picture does look admittedly a little bit softer than the dock 720p. There also seems to be this weird bug with the HUD elements where it seems to keep the resolution of the handheld mode but in dock mode. If anything, I really like the art direction. It kind of mimics the look of Coco or the Book of Life, but everything else just feels very unpolished, which is pretty much what the gameplay is like too. Being very heavily Hispanic themed, you'll hear a lot of cues of Latin music in the game. Trumpets anytime you land a kill, for example. Things like that make sense and are great, but there's other sound design choices here that just seem odd. Getting shot, for example, sounds like a bunch of pots and pans clicking together. They don't really provide any sense of satisfying feedback, whether I was getting shot at or was doing the shooting. The HD rumble does get used for shooting, but not so much for getting shot at. There's weird design choices like that just make the game feel unfinished, or like some of these additions were last minute afterthoughts. Morphies Law has the makings of a great and unique indie shooter. I think many of us thought that when we first saw the reveal trailer for the game. Sadly, it hasn't panned out too well as I was hoping for. It doesn't feel complete right now. It feels like an alpha or some sort of early access preview. The animations, frame pacing, and online stability all need to be worked on. The progression system and the idea behind the main game modes feels like a great foundation for a future shooter, and ultimately I hope that's what comes out of this, because of the way Morphies Law is right now, I just can't recommend it. In the future, if the developers patch up the game, get things working a little bit better with the online, perhaps this is a game worth looking into, but the way it is now, if I had to give it a score, I'd give it a 5.5 out of 10. That is it for my review of Morphies Law for the Nintendo Switch. If you enjoyed the video, then please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more reviews just like this every single week, and you can check out my most recent videos on the left side of the screen. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.